G'day all, it's Colin from PC TLC and thanks for joining me. In this video I'm going to be checking out StormOS. I did check out StormOS October last year and I've been contacted by the developer or creator of StormOS and asked me if I could take a look at the utility toolkit. So I was only too happy to do that. So what I'm going to do is run through a very quick install. The reason for just doing a quick install and running through that, I just wanted to show you that they've got package selection within the LBRY installer. So I'm going to select a couple of packages and then we'll make sure that those packages that were selected are working post-install. So let's check it out. So this is the grub boot of StormOS. And as you can see, they're running the LBRY installer about LBRY 3.2.55-1. Geez, that window blends in. You can hardly see the edges of that. It's very hard for me to see anyway. Maybe you young people can see it. Just something I noticed straight off the bat, that this font here on the selected box is darker than the rest and very hard to read. Not that it probably matters, because you only want to read the ones that you're looking for, I suppose. I suppose the one that you're currently working with is not important to see that font, but it probably just looks a bit better if it's a little bit more highlighted than that. Just thought I'd point that out. Let's go next. Perth Australia is correct for me. English Australian keyboard is correct for me. That's my default. I'm going to do a quick erase disk. I'm going to choose swap to file, and you got choice of ext4, XFS or Btrfs. I'm going to use ext4. I'm going to erase the whole disk. Next. That's my user. That's my name, my username, which has got to be all lowercase. The name of the computer, password. I don't want to require strong passwords. I won't log in automatically because I want to see the login screen, and use the same password for the administrator account. Next. Now we've got the StormOS packages here I was talking about. Let's have a quick look at that. We've got kernels, got the Zen kernel, the Linux long-term support kernel, and the Linux hardened kernel. So just to check out the difference of the kernels here, if you were to not choose any of these, then you would probably be getting the stable kernel, which I believe is the one that comes with Esnix's build scripts, I would have to think. I don't remember, because I've made some ISOs from Esnix for Arch Linux, and I don't remember installing any of these. So it would have to be that if you're not selecting any of these, you're getting the stable kernel. So the hardened kernel is a security-focused Linux kernel. Applies hardened patches to mitigate kernel and user space exploits. It also enables more upstream kernel hardening features than Linux. The long-term support kernel and the Zen kernel is result of a collaborative effort of kernel hackers to provide the best Linux kernel possible for everyday systems. More details can be found at licorix.net. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. This is the Arch Linux wiki, by the way. So that's a quick breakdown of the Linux kernels there. You can also choose NVIDIA, but I'm going to install Telegram, Flameshot, Zoom, and Menu Libre. Let's go next. Have our summary here. Install now. And that's the install complete. We shall restart now. Actually, no, we won't. We will shut down. And that is the grub boot screen for StormOS. Looks quite nice. Click on our username here, although with this theme it doesn't look very obvious, but you do click on your username because you've got to select username, it says in the box. So here we are in the desktop of StormOS post-install. Now we are checking out a utility toolkit. Let's have a look. Utility, probably StormOS, or I think it was StormOS. StormOS system tool. So let's check that out. All right, so let's close that for a minute. Let's exit that. First thing I noticed straight off the bat is you've got a utility toolkit that's looks like it's going to play an important role within the OS itself. So I would be presenting this front and center upon startup. I think that would be advantageous to any new user using this OS. After all, they are looking at this OS being towards new users based on Arch. That's just the first obvious thing I can see. So I think the first thing we need to do is when you're in Arch, and they've got it pretty much laid out in the first steps here. You're on the first tab. You've got one of 4. So the first tab is refresh mirrors, which would be the most logical thing that you would do. So let's first of all do that. And while we're doing that, the other thing I would do is I would put by default after install, I would put this StormOS system tool in the favorites. After all, the favorites is the first thing that comes up when you click the menu, and there it is there. So that'd be the first couple of things I could see as an advantage to this system tool straight off the bat when starting up after a fresh install. So that's the Arch Linux mirrors refreshed. Let's do a system update. And I did see that there's a system update down here in the shield as well. And I believe that's using Pamac, I think. As you can see, after the update, it goes straight into the upgrade. So that obviously has a no confirm command within that update command. Let's just check that out real quick, see if we can find that. Let's have a look where this is coming from. Let's edit the application. User local bin sys config. So we did a system update on tab number 1. We refreshed the mirrors. There's the command there. There's the command there for refreshing the mirrors. And then you've got the update. Automatically opens the terminal and then runs a command of no confirm. So SYU. I don't know why they've got 2 Ys. I'm not really sure why there's 2 Ys in an update command in Arch, because I normally just do SYU. So this update could take a while. No fault of the OS at all when it comes to doing any sort of Linux kernel, firmware, anything like that. For me is a long, painful update on most occasions. So we'll just let that run and then we'll come back when it's finished. So we have an error here for an elementary icon theme. So that update just closed with an error. So let's just have a look at that, because the update, I'm sure, was complete. Well, it didn't actually run through the updates. It downloaded it, but it didn't run through the updates because of that error. Let's just do a yes on that one, I think. So we're back to the point of download, but only at this point here. There's only 3 items to get, not 120 something, whatever it was before. So when it closed the first time, I actually just clicked on the update button again and it's run through the update. So we'll see what happens. I suspect it's going to get to this elementary PGP key and probably not go through again. We'll see what happens. So that definitely finished the updates and went through, so that's all good. I'm not sure what the PGP key error was, but I'd have to assume that we're up to date. And the only way we would know that, because there's really no feedback, and there was no feedback when there was an error there too, so I had to run the system updates again. I don't think a new person would know that, so I really think you need some feedback on whether the update's complete or not. If there's an error, I think people need to know, especially if you're targeting new users. They need to understand what's going on at the completion of this, because that first update was not complete. I had to run it again. I had to run it for the second time for it to complete its cycle. And I don't know what the deal is with this community one. On a good day, it might go through real quick. But on most times, even on my normal install, this community one can be really slow. I don't know what other people's experience is. For me, this thing can just be really slow. And I'm slow at the best of times. As you can see here, 44 kilobytes per second, 98 kilobytes per second. I don't know whether the mirrors have actually refreshed and put the correct mirrors in place for Australia. I don't know. Seems to be fairly slow. I might have to double check that. Okay, so it started system update and there's nothing to do, so that's completely up to date. You got optional AUR updates here. Let's just check that out real quick. And that's the AUR updates done. We also have a keyring updater. I was tempted to run that after that PGP key for the elementary icon theme, but the updates have gone through, so there's no reason to be concerned about that. And as we can see, there was a little dot down here earlier. The shield is now ticked, which means we're completely up to date. We've got a team viewer here, installed team viewer. If you're having problems with your OS, you got someone who can help you out. Maybe even the devs or the creators of StormOS. They might ask you to install TeamViewer. You've got install list hardware. So you've got a system info here by list hardware. If we click on that, there's nothing going on there. So we need to install this list hardware before we can click on that. And now we can do system info by list hardware. And there's the list of hardware. Now I don't see any point of having this big button here if it needs to be installed. I think that's a bit confusing for new users, I'd have to think. Step 7, I'm not sure what step 7 is. I have no idea. Installation, install I2C tools for decode DIMMs. I'm not sure about that one. Now you've got install NVIDIA DKMS. After that you need to reboot. A memory reader works on most PCs. Nothing happened there. Memory reader works on some PCs. List hardware for system info and decode DIMMs for memory reader. So it's given us a couple of text files here. Memory reader info to memreader.txt, so that's another one. Nothing in there. All right, let's just check that one out again. System info on a text file, so maybe that's good info if you're having to troubleshoot your OS and you're getting help from the devs, then that would be good information for them to be able to help you out. Blank your screen. I'm not sure what that one's supposed to do. Didn't do anything. And block detail info. And that's the disk and partition info there. System resources via top. You got an update for this utility, so you can update the utility program. This utility here, the StormOS maintenance and utilities program. So you can check for updates on this thing here. We are currently 3.0.0.1. Now, as you can see, I just left the recording of the last bit there for updating the utility, and it's just automatically closed. And we're still on 3.0.0.1. So obviously it needs to close once it's done an update or check for an update. Launch terminal here. And that's your information down the side there. Just get rid of that background utility so you can see the info. You can pause that if you wish. Okay, so that's tab 1. All the bottom buttons have been checked out. Now I'm not going to install any of these, but I don't have any gaming things on here. It's a VM, so it's a virtual machine. We're not going to be doing any gaming here, but you got the option of install Steam Native, install Heroic Launcher, install Lutris Launcher, install the Proton GE Updater, install Mango HUD Goverlay, I have no idea what that is. Install Bottles Launcher, install Warpinator. Warpinator is your home network PC to PC communication that comes from the Linux Mint project. So I'd have to think the team at StormOS have decided that these applications here are worthy of being a possible selection within this OS. So you've got calculator. So let's just have a look. Is there a calculator in here? No, there's just G-numeric, which is a spreadsheet. Flame shot. So have we got a screenshot tool? Yes, we have. So flame shot's just another option. Maybe because of gaming, flame shot may be better for gaming. I'm not sure. And BitTorrent downloader. So I don't know if there's a torrent downloader already installed. No, there's not. Thunderbird, so internet, do we have a Thunderbird? So Thunderbird's already installed, so I don't know why that's there if it's already installed, unless it's not working. No, it's definitely there. Install Spotify, so is Spotify in here? No, it's not. And launch replace file directory menu. I have no idea what this does. To replace a specific name or term in a directory, choose one. So if we choose one, what does that do? Replace a specific name or term in a directory. Okay. I'm not really sure what that's supposed to do. And then on tab 3, we have HP drivers pre-installed. Then you can get your CUPS printer web interface, and optional Epson drivers. So what's the CUPS printer web interface do? Let's check out the CUPS printer web interface. So unable to connect. So it's not connecting to anything now. Firefox can't establish a connection to the server at this address. Okay, that might be an issue they might need to sort out. So this is tab 4. So we've got the option to install Discord here, and then we've got all these other links here related to the StormOS project regarding About Us, donations and merchandise. So we'll just run through those real quick. So that was a look at StormOS Utility Toolkit, Maintenance and Utilities Program is what it's called up there. And one thing I haven't checked is the installation of some of the things that I installed during the install, which was Telegram. Okay, Telegram, yep. Also Zoom, yep. Flame shot screen tool, and that's down here in the panel. So right click and you get some options, left click. Okay, so you get those options there with flame shot. Let's just quit that. And I also menu editor I installed as well. Menu editor. menu, add or remove applications from the menu. That's definitely the one I installed. Looks like menu editor is not working or not functioning. Not sure if it's installed correctly. I did do all updates before I tried this, just to make sure that, because on first install, especially on Arch, there can be a lot of updates. So, but that's definitely not working. So that probably needs to be looked at within the installer to make sure it's installing it correctly. It's definitely got a desktop file showing up in the menu, but whether it's whether the command is correct or not sure. I'm going to give the same criticism to this project, and it's constructive criticism, of course. I'm going to give the same criticism that I did with Linux Mint. And this is the criticism that I've got here. Constructive criticism I'm going to give. This distro's goal is to help bring new users over to the world of Arch Linux by offering an easy to install out-of-the-box Arch Linux experience. Okay, so that's all well and good. It's got the right processes in place to help launch a new user into Arch with all these options here. But the main criticism I have is that when you do an update or you're clicking on any of these things, it's opening, it's updating and upgrading without any confirmation whatsoever, which doesn't really give the new user any interaction with an Arch Linux distro whatsoever. And then when it's complete, it just closes. It doesn't give any feedback. I had the same criticism of Peppermint. They've changed that. I think they need to change that here as well, because you really need to have some interaction if new users are going to learn what Arch Linux is all about. And I think the other thing is, I'm not sure how difficult it would be to have maybe a button down here that the new user can click on to check out, or even an extra button, maybe make this button smaller and have a button on the side so new users can check out what the command is that you're running to refresh the mirrors, to run the system updates, so they can actually explore what the distro was all about. I'm not sure in what way, an extra button or a button down here or something like that, but it would be nice that new users can explore these things. If you're focusing on new users and you want to ease them into Arch, they can just click this button and know that the mirrors can be refreshed and the updates are done. They're installing TeamViewer and all that sort of thing. But I think it's important that the user knows and understands what commands are being run. Also, there's Pamac. I think this is Pamac. Have we got an about here? About? Pamac. Okay. So we've got Pamac, which is a great facility for installing applications within categories and groups and repositories. I think it needs to be made clear to a new user that Pamac is there, because you're running updates from here, but it's probably some sort of information, because a lot of people say, and I see a lot of people talking about Arch Linux, I would not do an update within Pamac. Maybe that's an old school way of looking at how to update an Arch, but I do all my updates in my Arch system through the terminal, and it's always been advised with Arch Linux to do it in the terminal. And I think the same goes if you're running Debian unstable or SID, which is what I was doing. I messed mine up because I didn't update through the graphical tool, and I blew the system up and I had to reinstall it. So I think the information regarding what Pamac is there for is probably another thing that you need to do. Maybe another button here, optional installation or something like that, and that could be under here. Maybe just have a tab for just installing applications itself. I'm not sure, because you've got an install TeamViewer here, then you've got install these ones here. There was no an install Discord. So there seems to be a bit of a fragmentation of installs. Maybe they're in the right place because that's where they're supposed to be. But maybe there could be a tab for install, and then also make it clear that there is Pamac running on this system for new users as well. And that's all just constructive criticism, just a bit of positive feedback. I can see there's been a fair bit of work put into this maintenance and utilities program, and it looks quite good. Seems to run okay, except for my slow internet. But I think they've moved in a very positive direction, especially with this. And the feedback I gave earlier with this starting up on, with this loading on startup, and also probably by default being in the favorites. Maybe even Pamac, I think, is Pamac in here. Run Pamac, you know, I mean, that maybe that should be in favorites as well. Add remove software, that would be the Pamac, or run Pamac. Now, you've probably seen the mention of StormOS because the same developers or creators that are working on StormOS are also probably helping out with StormOS. So that was the StormOS maintenance and utilities program. That's a nice little utility there for getting your Arch Linux up and running, and to help you run through the processes of things to do first up within Arch Linux, and also to help you install some applications, and depending upon what the user needs or what the user wants. You can sort of look at this as little reminders of what do I need to do within Arch Linux to get myself up and running. And it might not have all the apps that you need, but there's certainly little reminders there of things and the processes that you need to run through on a first boot of a fresh install. So that was the StormOS maintenance and utilities program. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting and informative, and thanks for watching.